sorry.
Hey, hey.
Distinguished panelists, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome you to this panel on women and social change. If you have any trouble hearing me, please raise your hand, because I'm new to this particular type of microphone, and I could be totally botching the whole event. So feel free to just draw my attention to any lapses in my ability to communicate with you. Let me give you a little bit of the background as to why this panel was even put together. When I discussed the possibility of this panel with the organizers of Forum 2000, and we felt that the 20th anniversary had to talk about women who are about at least 50% of the human population. So we came up with the idea of this panel, and I'm very delighted that we were able to draw together some absolutely inspiring individuals to share their experiences with you this afternoon. The background to this panel is that historically a woman's role in society has largely been determined by her ability to influence the direction of social change. And her heavily domestic and family-oriented role confined her activities primarily to the family unit, and women used to make decisions about child rearing, family finances, and all of these things, and their influence did not really reach society broadly, even though they were economically very important in society, but never acknowledged. So it's not unique. The role of women is not unique. It's just a question of, has it been publicly recognized? And as we look today at a modernizing world, we are seeing that women have greater opportunities in terms of influencing public opinion and playing a public role in society. And we're also seeing, depending on the type of government, whether it's a democratic government or an authoritarian one, the ability of women to influence public policy is often determined by the system under which they are operating. I could go on at great length about how we have come a long way and how there is still a longer way to go. Certainly women are making progress in terms of decisions about reproductive health, about public policy, about all of these things. But rather than continue along these lines, I'm going to start asking our panelists to take about 5 minutes to introduce themselves and to talk about what they feel has been their greatest contribution to the status of women in society. I would like to begin with Madame Manal al-Sharif, this absolutely charming lady from Saudi Arabia, who has a great story to tell us.
Good morning. Actually, good afternoon, sorry. I'm in another time zone. I come from Saudi Arabia. I'm 37. I work as a computer engineer. I quit my job 4 years ago to be fully active in the social movement that calls for women's rights and full citizenship for Saudi women in my country. And I'm a minor, although I'm 37. I come from a country where it treats women as minors from birth to death, and they assign us legal guardian. And this is the 100th day in Saudi Arabia for a movement called Stop Enslaving Saudi Women. So I shout out to all the Saudi women out there and all the people from all over the world who are supporting us in this movement.
Is it all you want to say? We will, of course, give you an opportunity with more questions later.
Yes.
Madame Radičová, would you like to follow her?
Good afternoon to everybody. I was thinking that still the situation is not okay if still we have a panel concerning democracy on the role and change done by women. it means that it's, yeah, it's still distribution, it's still not real equality, otherwise we are not sitting and talking about this issue. It's a pity, because democratization, from my point of view, first of all meant that we are fulfilling human rights without relation to different religion, race, ethnic, and gender. So something is wrong also with the instruments and institutions in democratic societies. My story is very brief and easy. My grandmother has no right to vote in the system. My mother received the right to vote, but under the totalitarian regime, communism. It means it was not real vote, because it was selection of one political party. And me, as daughter and granddaughter, has not only democratic right to vote, but I was elected as a prime minister. Imagine such dynamic during the life of 1-2 generations. If we compare it in this sense and way, somehow it was the shock for the society. Sure. And some stereotypes are always present in our societies, that, okay, women playing the football, women playing hockey, women working at the professions which were usually interconnected with the role and ability of a man, and women in the highest level of politics. So still we are some kind of zoo animal looking at us that, are you sure that you are prepared for these typical men roles and positions in the societies? My answer is that results are those who can measure if we are prepared or not. If there were thousands of years when the rulers were men, there were some exceptions, only few of women, and the result was some kind of evolution of the societies. You can compare it with the changes of modern societies based on democratic principles, with the open space for women participation in this procedure. As a consequence, the role of and functions of family has changed rapidly. Traditional division of labor has changed rapidly, and position of women in society has changed rapidly. We are not more the ownership of men. Sometimes we try to do opposite. We are not so successful, but it was sure a joke. But what is important from my point of view is that position of women in each society is equal to fulfillment of basic human rights in the society. More developed societies with more developed issue of human rights, stranger position of women in the societies, or more equal if you wish. I have in my mind all 4 generations of human rights. Only to repeat briefly: first generation of natural rights, it means right to live, right for freedom and right for ownership, connected with very high level of tolerance. Without tolerance, you cannot fulfill these rights. second generations of rights connected to civic rights, based on assumption that those who are authors of legal system are experts, are writing the regulations in goodwill and with good aims. I'm not so sure that it's always such. It means that my rights are not fulfilled against the rights of other people. When we put it together with the position of men and women, it cannot be fulfilled liberalization of women based on de-liberalization of the position of man. If we do it in this way, there is a tension, there is a problem inside family lives, there is a problem with education of children, and there is a problem with reproduction of the population. Third, typical economic rights. It means social economic rights. It means education, quality education, and open space for your position in different professions. Once more, it's stereotype that women are more involved and educated in social fields like social affairs, teachers, etc., etc. And therefore, you can see them more employed in these sectors, public sectors, than in the sectors which have a power to influence the life and the style of whole society. And last but not least, it's a cultural right. We are different. We have different religions. We have different attitudes. We have different positions concerning division of labor, both in family and society. And the only way how to fulfill it is not the fight and struggle. The only way, once more, is to understand different positions and prepare conditions to fulfill different cultural rights in each society, because we are not homogeneous. So to conclude, if we really find the instruments to fulfill 4 generations of human rights, then we have no time and pressure to have a panel of the position of women in the society or in the politics. So start to work. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Chen.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for letting us have a chance to come over here to express our thoughts. But if I understand, I think, Madam Chairman, you say we have 5 minutes to begin with, then after that would be open to public.
Yes.
I have prepared a speech to be detailed, but since you mentioned about 5 minutes, I think I would be, for the time being. I'll try to emphasize, I think this topic is very important, of course, I think to us from Taiwan. Let me begin with saying, without democracy, I think it's very difficult to talk about feminist movement. When I was born to a Japanese, because during that time Taiwan was controlled by Japan. And under Japanese education, I think at that time the so-called feminist movement was not in existence. And basically, I think the feminists in common in Taiwan, it's very difficult during that time for ladies and for women to be able to receive higher education. But still, I think my father was able to let us, my sisters, doing it. It depends on your feminist background. But then after 1945, after the end of Second World War, the national Chinese government came from mainland China to Taiwan. But as you all understand it, their basic policy was trying to return back to China. Therefore, in terms of human rights, in terms of democracy, that was nothing. So we suffered quite a bit. So of course, the human rights is not in existence. We cannot criticize the government. We cannot talk about anything which is contrary to the principle of the governing government. We were living under consecutive 38 years of martial law. So let alone the idea of so-called women's rights. Under traditional Chinese culture, I think men supposed to be going out, do the work. The women should be staying home, doing the home job. That's kind of idea, traditionally being taught to average people in Taiwan. So then, under martial law, majority of the people were not able to do what they think is important. So like me, we, after graduate from the universities in Taiwan, we went to study in the USA. I'm very happy to introduce to you, of course I don't have to do it, but we have our former
Vice President.
Vice President. I think she delivered a really impressive message last night. Gradually, of course, she educated in the States and graduated from Harvard University. So we got to know each other quite a long time. She has the courage. Under that kind of circumstances, she was able to stand out and without thinking about what the consequence would be. So when she finished her degree, she came back to Taiwan, started so-called the feminist movement. And that was a start. Without her courageous leadership, I don't think today this topic, I think we couldn't have something to boast about it. So that is the circumstances that Taiwan's environment has been changed. But that alone is not enough. We got to be able to change our political environment from a real closed under martial law system to be able to open it up so that people can speak your mind. Without kind of chance, there's no chance. So like my own self, I went to States and I was there for 29 years working for the Department of Commerce under the federal government. I wasn't able to come back to Taiwan. When my father passed away, I was not given visa to return to attend my father's funeral service. So that kind of environment, that kind of political situation, there's no way you can talk about human rights. You can talk about the women's movement. So I mean, this has been the background. So today we are so happy. I think we can bring this story and using this kind of platform for us to say we can do things. I think like President Howard once said, a very famous saying, he said, no matter how insignificant you are, as an individual, you are in a position to make change, to change the world. So I believe this is true, universal truth. So as an individual, I think we can do it, and we have accomplished it. Later, maybe I can give you some statistics to show you how much progress we have made in Taiwan. And so we are very happy. But now, this time, of course, I didn't have my chance to come over here. This is my third visit to your great country. The reason why I'm here, because our first female president, Tsai Ing-wen of Taiwan, she received invitation from this committee, I think back in May, when Mr. Wondra attended her inaugural ceremony. He sent invitation to our president. And that is significant because for 71 years, we finally produced a woman as our president. But of course, Annette Lu was a few years before she was elected to become our first female vice president. So because of this invitation, but you understand our president she was very busy. She wasn't able to come over. So she asked me and give me the title as a special envoy to say something about, to deliver something about the female programs, the progress of it. But I'm so lucky we have the leader here from Taiwan. So I ask any one of you, whatever problem you might have, please refer to her, not to me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your optimistic words. We really appreciate it. I would like to now call on Mr. Sedláček to say a few words.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is one point where our European values can be quite clearly seen. I mean, value is something that we want to attain exactly because we are not succeeding in doing it. I think it is a typically European topic. It is not a typically any other topic than ours, on which we really are leading. This is not saying that the incomes are the same or that it is fair, but we're definitely leading the world in this specific area, like we are doing it in ecology, like we are doing it in human rights, like we are doing it in the absence of penalty of death, and other things which are actually quite rare outside of Europe. And this is a value of ours in which we can be absolutely 100% sure that we are right, that men and women should be treated absolutely equally whenever this is appropriate, and lean on it. Now, talking a little bit about the similarity with ecology. Now, when I was young, it was absolutely normal to wash your car in a river with detergents that were very harmful to nature. It was also quite common for chemical industries or companies to dump their waste into rivers completely regardlessly, as if the economy or as if the society was somewhat as if it was blinded by profit maximization, and if we only saw, as sort of an autistic view of the world, only one area. Now we are living in the time and age, and I'm happy to live in such a time and age, when we're sort of trying to seeing ecological values and other values. Why am I using ecology? Well, because 20 years ago, it was a joke. Nobody really took it seriously. An ecologist was somebody who would be typically hanging himself or herself from some whale in order to save her. 20 years later, the same topic has become a very strong and significant and respected force in politics, of which nobody makes fun anymore. It has become an automated process within a company, and also on an individual level, we all, one way or another, separate. It has sort of become part of our intuition, a part of our instinct. So this is, I think, something that we shouldn't really despise. As they say it nicely in the Bible, do not despise the day of the small beginnings. And so that's my point number 2. Point number 3 is what it does to men. Because, of course, that's an interesting parallel, because you very rightly said that there's been a tremendous, almost exponential lift up of female rights, which is a good thing. And then now suddenly males must feel as a sort of a vertigo, because when it comes to us, nothing has changed. We're still running these things in pretty much the same way we ran it 100 years ago or 20 years ago. And there is this half of population which is suddenly being elevated to heights from which we don't know how to behave. So this is a plea to give us a couple of more years to get our head spinning. On the other hand, you could also say that your case was luckily not the only one. We live in a world which is led, thank God, by Angela Merkel. Now just try to think about how Europe would look without Angela Merkel. There is not, in my opinion, there is not a single politician, male or female, except for Merkel, who actually cares a little bit more outside of the constituency of that given nation. Nation is an interesting entity. It's a very new entity in our hemispheres, and yet we identify with it much strongly than with cities, for example. And cities are much more ancient than nations living around them. So we have Clinton as the American, of course, presidential candidate. Most of the betting goes that she should win. I checked yesterday, it was 86 versus 14% chance that Clinton shall win. So let's hope that this will somewhat come to true. And we also have Theresa May in United Kingdom. So if Clinton gets in fact elected, it could be said that the Western world is, or the important countries of the Western world are being led by three women, and I think that's going to be a very interesting time to see. In Czech politics, this has not gone down very well. But even the nature of work, as an economist, you can see that work is becoming lighter and lighter. If you want to imagine how work will look like 30 years from now, try to remember how work looked like 100 years in the past. It was really heavy, laborious, and I would say manly work, which was really draining and killing the person, and that's why males were more fit to do this very heavy labor. But such is no longer the nature of production. Our economies are becoming more and more elf-like, if you will. They're more lighter and lighter, and this, of course, makes it absolutely possible for females to penetrate 99.9% of jobs if they or 100% of jobs if they so wish. This will also change the character of the economy, because it will be also more possible for elderly people to work in non-physically demanding works. Now, just last sentence, I'm actually following the very same structure that you've outlined, and that's the relationship when it comes to a personal relationship, as if to form a family or long-term relationship. We live for the first time, we live in a situation where relationships are no longer economically or socially driven. Relationships are becoming more and more voluntary from both sides. And if I can quote and end with a quote by a famous band called U2, the time will come more and more, and this will pose both advantages and both challenges, because why should people who don't need each other economically, socially, why should they stay with each other if the relationship, let's say, is dead? Now, this is something that sociologists term pure relationship. A pure relationship is a relationship which is there for the relationship only. There are no other ulterior motives, so to speak. So I also hope that we will soon come to the time, and now I quote, when a woman will need a man like a fish needs a bicycle. Thank you very much.
I have saved the most inspiring story for the last. Mrs. Lu, would you please?
It's always good to have men join us. Here it is. Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. It's always good to have gentlemen to talk about women's issues. Women occupies a half population on Earth. More and more people trust women to lead their nations as much as to take care of families. Indeed, the 21st century is the beginning of she-century, and human history begins to include her stories. On many aspects, women definitely are good agents for social changes. Number one, on education. Traditionally, women were not encouraged to receive good education. Now, women receive education as much as men do. With their knowledge and talent, women certainly can provide good guidelines for the young generation. In fact, to educate a woman is to educate a family. Women as educators should emphasize more on ethics and morality so that their children can tell right from wrong and do good things with good heart. Second, housekeeping. Women are born to keep house clean and in order, and to prepare meals for family members. Being so, they can become green environmentalists. If only they know how to save energy, how to use right materials, and how to cook meals nutritious and healthy, they can save the earth, save our future. At least, this meat, this seed, is the very nation that women can transfer to the whole family members. Number three, consumption and production. Women made up 85% of consumer choices. About 870 million women around the world enter the job market and contribute to world economy. With good income, women will become good consumers. More products are designed and marketed especially for women. Business women tend to start business from humanitarian perspective, care more about environmental protection and ecology and sense of beauty. More women in business means more humanity, more green economy, and more artistic interest. While he economy pursued for self-interest, expansion, and exploitation, she economy reflects a value of humanity, greenness, and benevolence. Number four, war or peace. Looking over the entire human civilization, most wars were initiated by men. Yet, 100% of victims are women and their beloved husbands and children. Did men ever ask women whether they like war? Did women ever have the power to prevent wars from happening? In fact, women have been left out of peacemaking process and effort. Not until the year 2000, the UN Security Council adopted Resolution 1325 to link women to the peace and security agenda. It calls for women's active participation on conflict prevention and resolution, peace process and peace building and governance in the world. Women are good peacekeepers. Number five, politics. Traditionally, politics is male monopolized, cultivated with patriarchal concept of hard power. To take, not to give, to conquer and occupy, rather than to cooperate and share. Therefore, countries are all crazy about absolute territorial sovereignty. And once national interest prevails even at the price of others' life and wealth. In the arena of politics, where he politics stresses on hard power, she politics elaborates soft power. While the traditional hard power is destructive and exploitative, soft power is constructive and generous in nature. Soft power is the foundation for world peace and substantial development. The struggle for hard power is often zero or even negative-sum game, while the development and sharing nature of soft power is always a positive-sum game. Hard power should no longer be the measurement of a country's success, and soft power will play a more important role in the future. And of course, women are the best player for soft power. The time has come to feminize power. It's time to think about feminization of power. Imagine that politics is involved with half or more women, and that economic and social development with a half or more women's participation. What differences, for better or for worse, would it become? To face the unprecedented multiple challenges coming our way, women have to learn and apply the wisdom of soft power instead of hard power. My country, Taiwan, has learned to project soft power, namely democracy, human rights, love, peace, and technological innovation. These values help and facilitate Taiwan's transformation from a small, poor country under an authoritarian regime and heavy threat from communist China into a highly developed country with most advanced high technology and democracy. In the Congress, women occupied 38 of the seats. And in terms of gender equality measurement, Taiwan ranks #1 in Asia and #2 in the world. To become a good player of soft power, women should empower themselves first with their own soft power of mercy, beauty, wisdom, and courage. All these come from their independence physically, intellectually, and financially. On pace of seeking power, women need vision and wisdom, determination and devotion based on feminist value and feminist philosophy. Feminization of power is the right way to change the world. Thank you.
We've had the pleasure of listening to some very important perspectives on the role of women in society. But what I'd like to suggest to all the panelists is to think about the following question. We have tended to discuss social change and modernization as interchangeable terms. And modernization, of course, we discuss within the West, we place it within the Western paradigm of progress. The question is, are there multiple modernities, and does a traditional society undergo social change that we do not identify with the Western concept of social change, but it is still change? I would like to begin with Manal al-Sharif, who probably can throw some light on this question for us.
Let me brief this question again. So the role of women in social change without adopting the Western.
Yes.
May I ask,
Yes.
I see a lot of ladies here, which is amazing. May I ask how many working ladies who have children? And how difficult it is for you living in a European country, fully democratic country, having your full rights, to leave your children and go to work? Is it difficult or not?
Not at all.
Why? So you have the full infrastructure, right? Do you feel safe when you feel your kid back home when you go to work? Or do you feel like a kindergarten where you can leave the kids? If they're newborn kids. And you also have the right for full paid maternity leave, right? Great. Before, if you look 100 years ago, women would take their children to work. If she works in the farm, if she works in the... And things changed because sometime in history, men only went out to work and women stayed home. And when women went out to work, we forgot this, we disconnected. Children are not fit to be at the workplace. So this is also a nice way to look at it. In Saudi Arabia, the law says that if you run a company with 100 women, or at least with 50 women, or at least these women have at least 10 children, you need to have nursery in the workplace. And for me, this makes sense. To have my kid, when I'm nursing him, I can have the nursing hour there. So it's interesting how to look at the Western and how to look at the Eastern way of looking to women at the workforce. It's amazing to have women go out and work, but it's also important that we, as women, change the society look at us. Instead of the society creating the role and setting the rules, we have to be actively participating in that. And I always say it's a men world, whether in the East, whether in the West. Men possess most of the power position, most of jobs, most of powerful positions in the society is occupied by men. That's not wrong, and that's right too. If there are not enough women to go and fill these things, what's wrong with that? But for me, as someone who comes from a very conservative society, where always look at the woman, you have a certain role in life that you need to fulfill, and you need to submit to that. I always say, I choose, not the society choose for me. I create my own destiny, and I say what's right for me. Because some women too, they like to stay home, take care of their children. They should have access to that. They should have the right to choose. And some women they want to go out and work. And they also have the right to have this, which is, at least, in Eastern society, is very difficult for us. We're not part of politics, we're not heard, and we're not part even of the decision-making in our own household. Men usually take decisions of us. I always tell the women in my country, it's up to you to change their idea about you as a woman. Don't wait for them to change. And this is what happened when I chose to work far away from my family. I just went to my father and I said, I'm moving, it's 2 hours by flight, the city, and I'm gonna work there and I'm gonna support. And that was amazing. To finish your education, to be independent, to help in supporting the family. That makes them trust you, and that makes them look at you as different. So I changed their perspective about me. Someone needs to be protected, to someone who's actively participating in the house. Being independent, I think, is the most liberating thing, and it's the thing that really creates the change in our societies. Women being always independent in the past. Things change, went wrong the last 100 years, and now we're going back, I think, to our roots. That we can run our businesses and we can be trusted. Sometimes in history, our grandmother were stronger than us, than my mother. She would take control of the house and take decisions. Something changed. We're just going back to our grandmothers, I think.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Radičová?
First of all, please, I have to apologize as I have to leave this forum in a 2 minutes, so yes, that's true. So sometimes we are under the pressure of duties and conditions and not always have a free choice. In other words, if there is a space for free choice, then you are you have human dignity and based life on human dignity. If not, if you are under the pressure of conditions you are absolutely not co-author, then you try to find a way how to survive. Always is the way of the space for choice. And choice is interconnected with responsibility. So, okay, if my preferences are future of my children, okay, I will behave in this way and I have chance to fulfill this choice. And I am not under the pressure to go to work because of income. Problem is system, and each system try to fulfill their duties through a redistribution of competencies to others. So if there is a problem with labor force, there are regulations to push the woman to the market, labor market. If there is not enough free spaces at working place, there are new regulations to throw out either pensioners or women or other groups from the labor market, not to have a problem. So systems try to push the problems on the arms of different social groups or very often to the family and distribution of competencies inside the family. You are right, Tomáš, that work is not so physically hard, but it's really hard concerning brain and education. And there are differences how quality education we have and how we can survive inside such a competition. So we will face absolutely new social change in part of the world. In part of the world, social change towards so-called society of leisure time. Less hours we will need to the same productivity. So more time we will have for do something. There is discussion for days working week or less hours per week at the job, etc. So it's a new social change. Face to face with social change where women are still working very hard in the hardest and most dirty fields of jobs. It's not so far from Europe. That's why they are trying to run away and try to find their place in Europe, in another continent. So there are different social changes, different reaction of system on these social changes, and different spectrum of choices of those who are involved. That's why I am really not able to generalize. But I can talk about different dynamics, different positions, different regulations, and then maybe try to find a way, examples or experiences, what we can do to live, and I will conclude with this sentence, in the world where poor relation is based on love. Don't forget that this is the basis. Not economic attitudes, not social rights, not taking care on somebody, not fulfilling the functions of the system, but the love. And I am not so sure if after several years or dozens of years, we do not forget that this is the basis of our relations. So maybe we can use the new leisure time to improve our relations, to talk, to be together, and to try to understand each other, maybe sometimes to find such a feeling that we can call it real love. And I hope we didn't lose ability to do it because of pragmatic system changes in our lifestyle. So to conclude, always there are social changes, always new challenges to all institutions inside. And always there is some kind of reaction. And depends on us how open we are to promote models which will create us more satisfied and more happy. And I'm sure that the role of politics is nothing another only to create more people who feel themselves self-determined, more successful, more satisfied, and at least once per week to have a feeling, I am really happy. I was happy among you, and I hope you will have good forum and good ideas, and I apologize once more. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Can I? Chairperson, can I have something to say?
Yes, Mr. Chen, please.
Okay. Let me comment something about the problem that maybe we are facing. Although, from the perspective of Taiwan's situation, I think the women's rights has progressed to a point. Maybe one day, I'm afraid, we may have to set a law through our legislature to make sure that men's rights could be guaranteed. This is the situation now in Taiwan. Really, this is no joking. I think.
No.
Let me read some of my. I have some written statistic. Let me read this one. So I appreciate. I said for Taiwan, 2016 is a crucial year for democratic deepening and reform. That's 2016. The people of Taiwan have elected their first woman president and completed the third change of ruling party since direct elections were instituted. For the first time ever, our legislature has experienced a change in majority party. So Taiwan tops the list of Asian countries. Taiwan, with women accounting for 38% of its legislature. 38%. I think my colleague and former Vice President also mentioned about 38%. So these are major milestones in Taiwan's democratic development. It's a major milestones. In terms of political participation and engagement, Taiwan would rank fifth in the world in gender equality in 2014 if
we're ranked 134.
Thank you. Appreciate it. If it were included in the UN Development Program's survey, but unfortunately, I think it was not included in there. So, in 2015, women accounted for 36.7% of elected representatives in Taiwan. 15.8% of elected heads of local governments and 19.7% of politically appointed officials. Then 36.6% of small and medium-sized business entrepreneurs and 50.8% of technical specialists, they are all women.
Wow.
So these figures far surpass those of most other Asian countries. Now, as you understand, we have a female president already in power, whose name is Tsai Ing-wen. The President Tsai has a leadership blueprint as a woman. So this is not to show how capable a woman as our leader. So, well, as we know, President Tsai is notably the first female president in Asia, also in Asia, who does not come from a political family. She has nothing to do with the political connections. First time, I think. She did not begin her political career until she was in the 40s. As a civilian, she relied on her professional expertise, wealth of experience, and passion for Taiwan's democracy to win the support of the people on her own merits. Taiwan, as you know, is in a difficult international position, politically speaking. I hope all audiences understand this part of it. We are in a very difficult position because of China. I hope you can share with my own concern. President Tsai relies on the female attributes of gentleness and the inherent resolve to draw up a blueprint for important national policies. In her inaugural address, she spoke of things determinedly on the need to transform Taiwan's economic structure, strengthen the social safety net. The social safety net is very important to encourage women to be able to do whatever they have the right to do it. And realize the social fairness and justice, ensure regional peace and stability, properly manage cross-strait relations. I think this is a very important note. People are talking about how Taiwan is going to be dealing with mainland China. We are a country, but China is always in the position to try to do something which we don't agree with. They want to marry us, but we say no, we want to separate. And contribute to diplomatic and global issues. This is what she was trying to do. So we will determine the uphold, very important, we in Taiwan will uphold peace, freedom, democracy, and human rights. We will steadfastly assume and fulfill our responsibilities as a citizen of the world, and resolutely lead our people toward the future as we raise freedom, democracy, prosperity, and justice to even a greater heights in Taiwan. So this is under the leadership of a woman who is our incumbent president. Now let me just say a couple more words. In Asia, as far as I know, both in Japan, women are encouraged to go outside to do work, to participate in all kinds of activities as much as they can. But there is a situation, I think it's happening gradually, not only in Japan, but also in Taiwan. Young ladies, they may get married, but A lot of them, they don't want to get married. But once they get married, they don't want to produce any kids. Why? Because of the economic hardship. They got the rights now, but the government got to be able to come up to provide some kind of social net, some kind of policies to be able to let each and everyone, no matter you are man or woman, you want to do your contributions to the country, to the society, but you would make them afford to do it. So this is part of so-called, from my own perspective, I think this is part of the human rights in terms of, we say, the women's human rights. Because if the government encourages you to get married, to work, but you cannot afford, then that is the responsibility of the country. So that is a point I think we need to bring up to the attention of most of the people, to a responsible government. And this is the point I want to make it using your committee.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Lovely.
I'd like to give Mrs. Sedláček a moment to address the fact that even though this is a panel on women and social change, I am sensing that there is a concern about gender roles and how the changing gender roles are proving to be somewhat difficult for the male of the species, so to speak, to adjust to. And one is actually wondering where the structure of the family will go, where population growth will go, if women, in the pursuit of the new roles that they are, the options that they have, are less interested in performing some of the traditional functions that they have in society. And what does it do to the traditional functions of the man? Are men feeling that they do not know exactly what their new role is going to be? And is that a corollary or a side effect of the fact that women are now rising in large numbers to positions that were traditionally male privileges?
Yeah. Well, there are a couple of issues connected with specialization, and one of them is, of course, individualization. So today, nobody needs to cook from the family. You can outsource cooking, which we have done. For lunches, we've outsourced that. 90% plus we don't eat with the family, nor do we do dinners so much anymore. You don't have to do your laundry, to talk about the traditional, work, but you don't even have to drive anymore with taxis becoming extremely accessible and self-driving cars on the road. So, the whole question whether women will ever be able to get similar job positions as males might be quite fast to be resolved, because the question might disappear in 20 years, where robotization will take on the more traditional roles. We can also outsource the outbringing of children, which we have largely done, to the institution of state. Everybody complains about state here and too much state there, but when it comes to taking care of my children, we are very ready to let go. How many of you take your child for a week from the school and educate him yourself, which was done 90 or even 100% in the past? So all these roles of the father or of the mother are evaporating or being, let's say, privatized or marketized, if you will, more so and so. So that's an issue number one. The cultural change that needs to happen has many dimensions, and I will make one example which is a little bit slightly funny, and I don't mean it in a bad way. It's just an example of what happened to me in Denmark, where I lived, where as you know, is very much advanced in that. Women had much more similar wages, which is a great thing for work, but they also paid for their own dinners and drinks. And and I think it's patronizing for a male to pay a female's dinner or a female's drink. But even in America, if you don't offer to pay for the first, anyway, judging from Sex in the City and Friends and other American series, the women usually get very offended if the guy actually splits the bill or lets the female to pay for it. Which I think, I'm just saying that one thing is directly connected to another, and the whole idea of courtmanship will have to be changed from both sides as well. Now, I am quite used to living in a society. I'm very happy, and it is expected of me to, of course, offer to pay for the bill, but not in Denmark, not in Finland. And that's just a small little, as I said, somewhat stupid and pitiful and funny example of how everything has to sort of adjust. The question is whether we want to live in a society where all these things will be outsourced from the family to the market. And we've outsourced, really, we are on the process of outsourcing cleaning completely. Anyway, here in the Czech Republic, it's become quite normal for the upper middle class to have somebody to clean the apartment. I would just think of one story it actually doesn't appear in the Bible, but it's an interesting story from our culture. It's a Hebrew myth about the first woman that was created before Eve. And her name was Lilith. And God creates man and Eve and Lilith, and they are completely equal. They're both made from the ground. She's not taken from the rib. She's not secondary in creation. She's not there to help, however equal or suitable, but still primarily a helper. And they never get on together. In this old myth, it's almost a 2,000-year-old myth, but it's a fundamental myth. And they find symbolic differences between the two. So I would not want complete equality in terms of no differences and everything being the same. That would be a boring world where no exchange can take place. I mean, I can only exchange thoughts or goods or products or words with somebody who is different. And we economists know that the biggest benefits from exchange come when these differences are as large as possible. So a completely equal society where everybody is the same wouldn't work, simply because if you think of the structure of the games that we play, every single game starts in a somewhat communist ideal. Everybody has, like, let's take the game of Monopoly, everybody has exactly the same amount of money and the dice is fair. And all games, that's why women don't play football against males, but females play against females, because it has to be somewhat balanced for the game to be interesting. So the game starts in a complete equality and ends in complete monopoly. You know, you play simply because you want to find the best player. And my last comment is the whole nature of competition. Now, a lot of people think that competition is something economic, and it quite largely is, but we human beings tend to compete in things that are absolutely non-compatible. For example, dancing, or skiing, or paragliding, or chess playing, or all the sort of things we always thought we're just doing for fun. We are actually competing in them, and the only reason for competition is to find who is best, and the one who is best, of course, is different and more let's say financially given than the rest. So these are all sorts of inequalities that we should have to work on, and my idea of how to make the society just so that it isn't offensive but not boring same is so that we want to play these games again. So if I play a game of Monopoly and we all consider the game to be fair, then you are happy to play with me again and again and again. The moment we play the game like Hitler or the communists did, the moment they win the game, they abolish the game. The moment they got to the power thanks to, let's say, quasi-democratic, but anyway, through elections, the first thing is that they abolish this. And this is how I think we should create a society, to respect each other's differences, to be able to... there is no problem with... There is actually not even a problem with inequality. There is a problem with poverty. A lot of people confuse the two. Inequality doesn't mean you can have a perfectly equal poor society and very unequal but society in which even the poorest man or woman is rich. So I think what's wrong is arrogance. What's wrong is looking down on people. What's wrong is misusing your power. What's wrong is when you're actually working against the interests of the whole group. Those are all things that are bad, and And that's what we don't need in our societies. But to create a completely equitable society is, I think, both impossible and also actually not desirable.
You did forget one type of outsourcing, rent a room, where you don't even have to have your child. Someone else can have your child for you, which is, of course...
Can I have the number, please?
Oh my God. We have a question from the audience. Yes, sir. You had your hand up. You wanted to ask a question? Yes. Would you like to identify yourself? And does somebody have a mic?
Madam
He's
Chairman, can I just tell Thomas something? Do you know how much women spend on makeup, perfume, clothes, shoes?
Oh, okay, this wasn't cheap either.
No, I'd make the man take the bill because we spend more money on
But nobody makes you put it on.
To look good.
Thank you very much. I'm coming from Scandinavia, from Norway.
It's a good point.
I come from Norway, Scandinavia, and where the women's rights is one of the top. But I have also originally, I was a diplomat from Iran. I defected my embassy as a young diplomat career and joined the Iranian resistance. And I'm happy to tell you that the Islamic world today, unfortunately, is being pointed as the most misogynist religion. But that's not the truth, because I'm not a Muslim, I'm a humanist. At best, I'm from Zarathustra religion. But I could tell you that the misinterpretation of the religion, ideology, I just said it, be it communism, socialism, ism, that has been catastrophic in the history of the mankind. But we have to help the people, the Muslims who are themselves rising up against fundamentalism, because the most misogynic ideology today on this earth, and it's importing to Europe also, is Islamic fundamentalism. We have to face it. Europe is going to face it, and they're facing it. I know the Eastern Europe, you don't have much fundamentalist Muslims, but you know that you have to help the Muslims themselves to clean up this. And there is a resistance everywhere in the Islamic world. There is, for example, in Paris, a lady called Mrs. Maryam Rajabi, who is leading the Iranian resistance. 52% of the parliament of exile of Iranian resistance comprised of women, and the leader is a woman. She's holding conferences for human women rights in Paris and in Berlin. Thousands of people, 100,000 are gathered. We have to give these people the microphone, not only try to spread Islamophobia and pinpointing one terrorist action here and there. We have to help, because this fundamentalism, like communism, like Nazism, like fascism, is coming knocking at our door. Maybe you don't have much Muslims in Eastern Europe, but in the Western Europe we have a problem. We have a mullah in Denmark saying that we have to enforce stoning of women. We have to have polygamy so that the man won't be unfaithful to his wives, something like this. So we have to know that we should really help the Iranians, the other nations, Muslims who are rising against this Islamic fundamentalism, because they are also importing this calamity to the European nations, to our democracy and democratic values. But of course, everybody has to fight their own way. You cannot come, a Muslim woman and a woman from Asia, they cannot copy exactly what the Europeans have gone through. They should find their own way of doing that. And we have to help them. And I beg you to help the progressive Muslim. I'm saying it as a non-Muslim, as a humanist. Norwegian humanist, politician in Norway also. Help the Muslims, help Mrs. Rajavi, help the other women who are raising against this new fascism which is threatening our civilization. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You have another question?
So he's from Norway. He's from Norway.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Olga Lomova. I'm from Prague. I would like to make a small comment on this panel and then ask a question. This is a very interesting panel. Not so much that we would learn a lot about women as the agents of social change, But we learned a lot about how our world is divided in terms of women's position. True. And we discussed here things related to the European Western part of the world. We could see that in Taiwan the progress of women's position is such that we can regard Taiwan a sort of a European country and in certain respect even more advanced than we are. But then we didn't talk too much about, I am afraid, the majority of women on the earth that have totally different problems, and they are in totally different position. And that's why I'm very happy to see Mrs. Manal al-Sharif here, who really did some contribution on her own to, well, bring up perhaps in the future similar position to women in the Arab world. And looking from the distance at the position of women in many countries when they are denied education, denied any better position, oppressed in all sorts of ways, I have the impression that there is also a power of fear among the men to lose their position. To lose their position not so much vis-à-vis women, but vis-à-vis the globalized world which is threatening them. And I would like to ask Mrs. Manal al-Sharif if she could comment or talk about how the men in your country perceive the effort of women like you, whether you get support, what are the greatest obstacles, whether the problems you have to struggle with are really problems which can be solved from within the society, perhaps even with the help of some men, etc. Thank you very much.
Wow, what a question. That will take another panel. Yes?
I am Anna Galovičová, Forum of World Religious Slovakia. Please, maybe my question is not suitable for this panel, tomorrow's interface dialogue panel, but I feel it is dominant, psychosomatic. We have a physical level and mental level. Physical level, of course, men are stronger, but mental level, I feel that men feel stronger than women. It means top standard of mental level is called enlightenment. And in all religions, in all regions in the world. And if in your countries or regions is possible that female or woman can reach this top level enlightenment, or other way to ask if the greatest religious leader or spiritual leader can be in female body.
Interesting.
Thank you.
We women are so strong, we just don't know about it. It's a fact. And in Saudi Arabia, you found the society divided by knife. It's schizophrenic, really. You find people who are fully supporting their wives, their daughters, and you find people who are totally against it, as you said, because of the fear of losing the power. We live in an absolute monarchy. The monarch is the most important, the most powerful man in the country, and then under that, the religious establishment, who take control, who show their control over the society by how much grip they have over women. And then there are the men. And the men are giving full power over women. So the oppressed is oppressor. It goes on. Men, I'd say, my father, I can tell you my personal story, and I cannot generalize it for the other women in my country. My personal story starts with my father and my brother looking at me as a minor, and I believed I was a minor. I was ashamed of my face, I was ashamed of my name, I was ashamed of even my voice, because I was told to hide your face and not to use your voice. But once I changed the belief about myself, they changed. They changed how they looked at me, and they supported me. And sometimes I do things without them. Dad knew that I was sent to jail when I drove from the news. I went ahead and I did things without going back to them and taking permission. And they had nothing but to go and support. In the society, you find men who are too afraid of seeing women in power because for them, if they don't have that power over women, they don't have power over their own life. They're giving a piece they can control. That gives them sense of power. If they lost that last piece they have no sense. They could revolt. It could cause social unrest. This is why it's a huge thing. And I said this morning in the talk in the gallery, I said, absence of women's rights in any country is a sign of absence of human rights. Because that society would not be free if the women of that society are not free. It's give and take. So yes, you will find both men who are too afraid and men who are supportive. That question, was it for me? The mental? Oh yes, I'll leave.
I have one question in the back that I'd like, because I got the 2-minute signal, so please make it as brief as possible. Yeah.
My name is Jasim. I'm from Bahrain. In fact, my question is to Manal, really. Are you really in any way optimistic of possible socio-political change, in the Gulf and in Saudi? Do you think really Saudi now has better chances with King Salman, or were you in a better position with King Abdullah? Because I think King Abdullah really started a new movement. So where do you stand in Saudi? And any thoughts about the Gulf and the region, really, Kuwait, Bahrain, and the UAE, really, about rights of women and socio-political and civil societies, freedom of press, and human rights. Thank you.
You're lucky to be Bahraini because you have civil society while we don't. It's banned by law. Protest is banned by law. Gathering of 4 people or more is banned by law. Starting your NGO is banned by law. So they really put... But I'll tell you a surprise. Oil prices are low. That's not bad news. That's good news. Because now you have an absolute monarchy that they have so much money. They're so rich. They don't need you as a citizen. They actually subsidize your electricity and your gas and your water, but not anymore. They removed the subsidization, and now they're cutting a lot in the budget cutting through your own loaf of bread, your own pay. And that's what happened last week in Saudi Arabia. And they're introducing the VAT, the value added tax. I've grown up. I don't know anything about tax until I come to Europe and I have my tax refund when I leave any country I buy something here. It's been introduced 2018, which is good. We have a country that 93% of our revenue comes from oil. Finally, oil is not enough. Now they're looking to diversify the source of revenue. Now they have to look at how productive people. If you're so rich country, you're the largest producer of oil. Now I think US in 2013 took over. You really don't care about the citizen's voice because you have your own money and you're backed up by the United States. Things are changing now, which is not bad, it's good, because these economic changes will push for social change, for more human rights. We've been calling for constitutional monarchy, and it's been ignored. People put in jail when they call for that. Hopefully, now, they will need people to be productive because they're paying taxes. They will need to create new jobs. They will need to include women. We're 60% of the college graduates and higher education, but only 11% in the workforce in my country. I'm moving to Taiwan. And now they have to put, because why? Because women are not supposed to work in most of the jobs. We're treated exactly like the black people in the southern states of the United States, where we have back door to every place, to the mosque, to any government offices. We're not part of the government. We're not ministers. We're nothing. And we've been segregated from men, so we cannot work in the same office with men. Finally, 2011, they allowed women to work. I used to buy my lingerie and underwear from a man because women were not allowed to sell in shops. I'm not allowed even to try the clothes I'm buying. Simple things that you can have here. 2011, the king, royal decree, had to pass to allow women to be cashiers. And if a woman working in the same place with men, they have to have 6-foot partition between her and the man. And if you're a man and not allowed to go to the woman cashier, we're going there. But yes, economical hardship will introduce real reforms in such GCC countries. So good luck with that.
I want to thank all the panelists who have been very patient, and everyone didn't get a chance to really respond to the audience questions. But this was such an interesting panel, we just didn't have enough time. I hope that you will all understand that this is a discussion that could go on for a long time. And if you have any desire to continue to speak to our distinguished guests, please do buttonhole them and have a moment or two with them. Otherwise, I would like to thank all the very, very, very inspiring stories we've heard today and the perspectives that they have given us this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you.